Hello Hero, it's Lucy Lannon. This is your new Birch moon reading for December 2023 for the moon in Sagittarius and the crescent moon phase after that, moving through the signs until the 19th. However, if you're seeing it at any other time, you can take this as a timeless reading and take the messages as just what you need to hear right now. Today we're going to be using the Technobrae Tarot, as well as a bunch of other decks that I will go through as we go. I have done all my kind of cleansing and protection work, and I feel the need to say it because some of you do ask, but I don't share my protection rituals any more than I share my address, so you won't be seeing that on camera, aside from that bit of incense that we just had. Now, what else do I want to say? I want to thank my returning subscribers. Thank you, beautiful people. I really do appreciate you. Every tiny bit helps, and this year has been a big growth year for me, even though like some of you will scoff at that because I don't have that many people on board just yet. There's a lot of work gone into kind of undoing a lack of regularity that was on the channel and instead reaching the kinds of audience that I want to be reaching. And that is really expressed in the comments, in your exchanges with me, publicly and privately. So just know that I really do appreciate you, okay? All right, I'm shuffling this in a bit of an odd way for me. So what is this way telling me? I am going to put reversals in these guys, just so you know. They are just extra meanings, 78 in the case of the tarot, and who knows in the case of oracle cards. This just gives me more density of information. It is not a worry at all, okay? And with these archetypes, or indeed the DIY Love deck, if there are any messages that are sensitive or that you find offensive, just know that they're directed to me and my explanation and not necessarily directly to you. And with these love cards, you don't have to be coming for a love reading. These are just to express colloquialisms that would otherwise be kind of missing in the situation, if that makes any sense, do ya? Now, oh, that's what I was going to say. Before I go into sort of how these were shuffled in a weird way, what I want to say is that I don't really sort of, I mean, I know what to do with the channel. I've got plenty of readings coming up, but I don't get a sense yet of what you guys favour. So if you enjoy my Marseille minis, the Lucky Dip ones, hit me up down below. If you enjoy these reads, hit me up down below. If you enjoy more of a kind of read where you get a subject line before you go in so you know what you're getting, tell me. If you prefer picker piles, let me know. And indeed, if you have an idea for a subject that you'd like a reading on that is sort of non-specific enough that we can do that here, then I will absolutely add it to the calendar. These are new to this. These are cards my friend got in a Happy Meal at McDonald's. And she said, I bet you can't read with these. And I said, bloody watch me. So we're reading with double cards today. I don't even know what double is or how you play it. Let me know if you know more than I do. But they are totem animals, so of course I can read with them. She's being silly. And then these are the This Day I Am Oracle deck, which is just going to give us an activity that is good for this month, which is clearly in line with the animal meanings, right? Because we're embracing nature, apparently. Okay. So we've got, you're so impressive, you really achieved a lot, which is turning up in reverse, okay? I feel like such a creep when I'm around you in the upright. I don't belong to anyone else, nor will I in the future. Now that's come out before, so if you have been watching these lunar readings, you may be seeing a repeating theme from when that turned up. This day I'm embracing nature. Get outdoors for at least 30 minutes. Go to the beach, the woods or the park. Soak up some nature and boost your mood. This is partly to point me towards something that happened earlier, which we will discuss. And then the main sort of oracle animal is the lion today. But we also have, for your confirmation, a chicken, a hippo, a snake, a spider, and a starfish. So any of those may have a personal meaning for you. Right. And in terms of the Technobrae, by Pixel Occult, buy his decks, he's fantastic, not sponsored, just like him. We've got a 10 of Wands in reverse, a King of Swords, and a 7 of Cups in reverse. And for the middle column, we have an 8 of Swords in reverse, an Ace of Pentacles, always good to see right in the centre there, and an Eight of Wands in reverse, with a Tower, don't panic, a High Priestess reverse, that fits in with some stuff I was picking up, and a Seven of Cups in the reverse. I'm going to contemplate these, damn communication, contemplate these for a quick sec, and I will be right with you. Now, it's interesting to me that in recent months these lunar readings have touched on things like boundaries, because if you're stumbling upon this, I feel like it might still be an issue, no? One of the things coming up within December or January, I'm not really sure which yet, depends on schedule, is a try before you buy version of my boundary setter that's available in the shop. So if you don't have the cash at the moment to book with me and you want to deep dive into some boundaries that might be good to set and how and why, then that's a good one to subscribe for, or keep an eye out if you are a regular subscriber. Now, I think that this Slave card in the upright is turning up, yes, to give us these positive qualities, as all the cards in the upright do in the archetype deck, but also to indicate that perhaps if you haven't been able to give enough to a situation, it's because you feel like a slave to another one. We've got surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. Now, surrendering your power of choice is interesting with the Tower. And then with You're So Impressive, you really achieved a lot in reverse. What I want to say even before we get into all this is that there is a sense here that you don't feel like you're achieving enough during this new moon and then the subsequent days, or indeed whenever you're seeing this. The Lion to me is about leadership. It's very cardinal energy. It's kingly. It ties in a lot in my sort of paradigm with the Christian because of things like the writings of C.S. Lewis, right? And indeed stories from the Bible, but it's the sense of that kind of ascended master energy, whatever you believe in, and whether or not Christianity rubs you up the wrong way. My feeling is that particularly if you resonated with the Lunars for the last month, and especially the last one, I want to say, there is a call there to a kind of leadership, right? And if you've had my spiritual readings on this channel or you've stumbled on me that way, then again, there is an echo for my collective of being called to a certain path at the moment and having to give up certain things or leave certain things behind in order to pursue a higher calling. I mean, this is like a general tarot theme anyway, but I also think that particularly in this sense, we're not just looking at spiritual development or awakening or any of those themes that you do see on YouTube and TikTok at the minute. We are actually looking towards leading others, being an active, I want to say active in a sort of priesthood type way. So it doesn't have to be in a religious fashion, but you could feel in some fashion that you are wanting to embrace the potential of being a mediator between the divine and others. That can be as a reader, that can be as some kind of community magic user, or indeed a steward of nature or of other people. You know, take it as you see fit, because there are many paradigms and religions on here, and there will be many more. But my sense so far is that it's almost like this underlying feeling of servitude, which is also tied in with the Lion for me, is preventing you from actually giving any kind of service. And indeed, it's locking you out of the ability to tune in to what it is that you do next. The Seven of Cups in reverse can be too many options and things like that. But in this case, I think maybe you've been having very intense dreams or even nightmares about wanting to hurry up with this, or kind of spirit rushing you along, or getting very weird experiences so as to clue you in on a larger pattern. So for those of you who maybe came for a love reading, who are in some kind of, I barely want to say it because the terminology is changing, but the twin flame kinds of dynamics, or something where you are spiritually contracted with another person, even if aromantically, I suspect you've been having intense dreams about that person if this is your reading today. And I think that if that has not happened, it may be likely over these days, right? Between the new and the crescent moon, or between the new and technically the first quarter when I do the next of these readings. I feel like such a creep when I'm around you is interesting because it's sort of semi-covered by this embrace of nature. So part of the indication here is that stepping back into your abilities and away from this idea of servitude to others and overwhelm, right, is going into nature and being with the high priestess. But whenever we have dreams like this that are either blocked or there's kind of too many things going on, there is also like a feeling of overwhelm that can lead to imposter syndrome. So I don't know whether maybe you're not a natural dream worker, or your dreams have taken a very different tone to how they normally operate, and that's making you feel like you're out of sorts with how you normally receive this information, or indeed that you are locked out because maybe your dreams have been more tower moment, more tumultuous than they usually are, right? But with this, I don't belong to anyone else, nor will I in the future. In this instance, I think this is, because it's in blue, it's kind of your ability speaking to you. And this is going blue as well, and it's sort of switching to green, which is the systemic, the holistic, right? We moved from a kind of cyan turquoise, which is about thoroughly cleansing the self and being in full balance, into a green, which is about being in harmony with nature and indeed with the natural instincts. And I think that this is saying, listen, these abilities have been given to you and they are still in you, no matter how you feel about expressing them, no matter how you feel about your mood at the moment, your emotions, your dream life, how you wake up feeling, or whether indeed just in your daily life you're too overwhelmed to kind of act on things and you feel like a slave to someone or something else, right? Again, surrendering is big here because of that slave card coming up, and this is no kind of link to colonialism or slavery in a larger sense or anything, so I don't want anyone to feel triggered or offended by that. It's just one of the many archetypes in the deck, okay? But again, if that does have meaning for you, this may be contributing to the sense of overwhelm, right? It's almost like contending with the past at the same time as the present and the future. And really, what this first line is pulling me to say is, you need to be in the present, my dude. You need to be, if you have tumultuous dreams, by all means write them down and think about them, but don't live them out for the rest of the day. Or if you don't dream and you're having like major mood swings, or experiencing low mood in a way that's unusual for you, or having anger, I want to say, because of all this kind of fire and electricity, particularly anger around relationships, because my ring twisted and that's my ring for my kind of kinship with someone. I do feel that all of this is something that needs to be brought into the present moment and breathed through, right? We've got an Ace of Pentacles in the next line, and that's a clue that stability is what is promised here. Now, in other more circumstantial readings, this might be a literal offer from somebody else of a job, of a relationship, something like that. That may still resonate for you. But this kind of a reading to me is not giving off the vibe of practical things happening in the world, so much as shifts happening within you that are causing you to be the catalyst for outward change, right? We've had readings before in the Lunar that have gone both ways, whether it's your outer circumstances pushing you somewhere or you pushing your outer circumstances to shift. And this is very much giving me, you are making a decision here and then things will change around you. But I'm not here on this time to read what your circumstances are so much as what's happening within, because I feel like it's a very confusing few days for you, or it's been a confusing time leading up to seeing this. And I do think that the key to stepping into this leadership and being back out there in terms of nature and all of that kind of stuff is possibly feeling that sense of stability again, which you're going to get from living moment to moment. I don't mean mindfulness, because I know for many people it can be a difficult notion, or even, as I was discussing with a friend, possibly an ableist one, right, in terms of neurodivergence, etc. It's not easy for everyone. But I do think that something you could practice is making every moment that you're in the most beautiful it could be. And by that, I mean, if you've got a lot on your plate, finding ways to take pleasure in little aspects of that in order to be more fully in that moment. So it's not to become main character, it's not to transform your life into some kind of aesthete experience necessarily, unless that's come up and you've seen my other readings on that. This is more like saying, if I'm doing all of this office work but I have my favourite snack, I'm going to be in my body while I'm doing it because I'm going to be tasting it. Or if I'm listening to my favourite podcast while I'm doing laundry, I'm going to be in that moment of doing laundry instead of having my head go off in 10 zillion different directions, right? So these kinds of practices are good to pull you back into yourself. If you are a meditator or a magic user, as indicated on the wrist tattoo, great stuff, fine, do that, right? But also, I want you to try and ground yourself in much more day-to-day ways, right? It's all good putting roots into the earth or, you know, working with crystals as I'm pulled to do right now. But the other thing is to actually be in the moment that you're in. And so many of us, particularly on the spiritual path, and particularly in times where we're experiencing awakening or ascension symptoms or anything like that, or there's big shifts in the world as there are right now, we can get almost too locked into this idea of meditation versus grounding, with grounding being another meditative practice, if you see what I mean. Whereas really what it should be is a return to the moment, a return to the body, having your feet firmly on the ground, perhaps literally if you can go barefoot. And something I'm pulled to say, if you do want to embrace nature and if you do want to step back into this lion energy and this sort of languidness, but also leadership and cardinal, you know, energetic, fired up kind of a vibe, is that if you're not in nature that's sort of nature, you know, countryside type surroundings, wherever you are, this is possible to do in a city. And this is the other reason we have the tower. And actually I've been pulling in my Lenormand city all week and thinking, this isn't for me, but I don't get it yet. This is why, right? So I'm almost pulled to fetch the card. In fact, I'm going to do that. Hold up. Yeah, so this is the city card in the red hand Lenormand. It may be of particular relevance in terms of imagery for you. Let me just check that's on camera. Yes, it is, and it's in focus. Bonza. Right, so I'm going to pop that down there as well. There may be a city break for some of you that may be sort of grounding and stuff as well. But let's step back into this Ace of Pentacles. So, 8 of Swords reversed and 8 of Wands reversed. Yeah, this is again getting you out of your own head, getting you out of the kind of prison you've made for yourself of feeling like these situations that you're not so boundaried in are trapping you there. A way to address this in an immediate sense actually is a lack of communication. So I don't know, I mean, this could go two ways because general reading, large audience, should have said that at the beginning, but, you know, take what resonates for you and leave the rest for somebody else. There are half of you for whom there is a conversation, a proper conversation, that you need to withdraw from and not respond to in a very exacting way in order to show where your boundaries are. So this isn't ghosting someone or something iffy like that, but this is saying, you know what, I've already expressed to you that I don't have time for this extra bit of this conversation, or that I can't talk to you between the hours of X and Y, or that this is a project that I just don't have the energy for right now, and I've, you know, directed you to someone who does. And then this person is sort of still bugging you. And this is a thing of the best way to deal with that is just not to respond right now at all. And with it being this 8 as well, there's sort of a suggestion that they might keep badgering you, they might keep bugging you, they might keep calling, and just to do whatever you can to ignore that for now. I don't mean long term, I'm not about doing that to people, but for the next couple of days, I think you need to get your head straight first, and you will know when the energy is clicked in that you feel stable enough to respond to this. The other thing to say is that when you do act on that, Don't just go, well, I kind of feel up to it, but now I know I don't have to. I don't want to, right? There's still an urgency to that. There's still being kind to people, right? But at the moment, there is a need to prioritize self that spirit is expressing. Now, the other half of you for whom you're like, I don't know what that conversation would be. I just feel generally very overwhelmed. You are being pulled to take a few days retreat. Something I like to do is set a timer. If you don't have one that goes for a few days on your phone, you can use something like a fasting app, which is designed to time a few days at a time. I tend to set myself 3 days, and I just tell everybody I'm on retreat. And sometimes I do go on retreat physically, and sometimes I don't, but I am uncontactable for that amount of time. The boundary is set, the statuses and bios are up, and then it's like, that's it, guys. There is no exception to that particular rule. I know this is harder when you have things like family reliant upon you, but to the extent that you can, if you're not in this conversational group, I think you need to pull away and have some quiet time to yourself. On quiet time, there is also a suggestion here that if you're wondering how to spend that 3 days and you're saying, I want to connect back into myself and feel like I'm not a slave to this, that, or the other, whatever it is for you, but I don't know where to start, a good thing to do would be to block out media, right? It seems really hard to have a complete media fast for 3 days sometimes, as in no tarot, as in no Netflix, no music, nothing. I know that for some of you that won't be possible because of, again, neurodivergence, etc., etc. But if you can do it, right, those who are able, it's going to be really good for you. And I think even if that silence that you experience is an uncomfortable one, it's going to bring up what about your life isn't quite right for the moment. And it's going to turn this into the upright, because you are impressive. You have achieved a lot. What I'm feeling for you is that has been drowned out in some way. And I don't know whether that's by another commitment or a person or perhaps a group of people or even an environment. But I guarantee you that if you take a few days and you commit under spirit, right, or under whatever you believe in, and you promise and you maybe even sign on some paper that you're going to commit to silence and prayer, and, you know, prayer just means intention, really. By the end of that time, you're going to know what it was that was truly holding you back. And for many of you, it won't actually be the external circumstances of your situation to the extent that you thought it was. It will be your lack of ability to say no to a particular thing. And for many more of you, that will be linked somehow to your finances. I think there are some of you who are supporting somebody else using money that you've earned for you that should go to you, or you're giving of the body, of the energy, of time to either people that you've possibly outgrown on a spiritual level, or people who don't reciprocate that energy or give you anything at all in return. And this is the time to say, I am nobody's slave. If I am dutiful to anything, it is to spirit. And actually, in not serving people, counterintuitive as that sounds, in serving just God or universe or whatever it is that you believe in, that brings you into this lion energy of servitude, of kind of Christ consciousness stuff, right? Okay, so we've got a 10 of Wands in reverse saying that this is going to come to an end. You are going to stop feeling so burdened. Then a King of Swords and a 7 of Cups in... Is that 7 of Cups in reverse? No, a Page of Cups in reverse. Sorry, we've had the 7. Okay, so by the end of this period, whether you take a day, 2 days, 3 days, or all the way until the 19th, and whether you go completely no contact for everyone, or whether you just have a slightly quieter time, your burdens are going to be kind of laid down. You're going to feel okay again. I feel this is looking to me like the bottom of the outfit that the killer wears in Scream, right? Which makes me think of the Scream mask, which makes me think if you were mask wearing, if you were hiding any component of yourself in order to be of service to everyone else, and feeling like your tower was coming down, or like you were a lightning rod for trouble because of that stuff, that's going to come to an end, okay? So I feel like by the end of this short period, you're going to feel more like your authentic self. But I want you to spend the time paying attention to what kind of lightning you are a lightning rod for. Does that make sense to you? Like, this is, okay, so this is giving Batman animated. And then I'm thinking, well, that's so many villains, like so many villains in the Batman universe. And they're all equally good and scary and wonderful, particularly in the animated series, which is telling me that you could have things coming at you from all sides that are demanding your attention in terms of taking it away from this spirituality and this development. That's not to say that those things aren't worthy of your attention, or indeed that they're less important than your spirituality. It's to say that this reading as a whole is expressing a lack of balance for the moment. So I want you to look at, if you do step back from people, who is the most reactive about that versus who just gets on with their shit, right? If you sort of pull back on a commitment, who is the first person to be up in arms? What are the first feelings that you have about that? Is it guilt? Is it shame? Is it anger? Is it resentment? You know, express that kind of stuff to yourself in speech or in writing, you know. Break this kind of silence if it feels too difficult by just having a natter with yourself. I know that sounds a little bit out there, but honestly, there is a dialogue that needs to happen between you and you for this to come back into the upright. King of Swords is about leadership again, but it's about discernment, and it's about the intellectualization of, I want to say the mundane in your case, right? So sifting through very practical things to look at where the logic is and where the logic certainly is not anymore. And as I say that, my incense is going a little bit crazy, and I'm sort of needing to bring it back over here and do this. Partly so I'm not breathing it in. So there may have been, again, came up before, but like an inability to breathe, or a feeling of, what is it that you can't breathe around in your surroundings? What is it that makes you feel anxious, panicky, like you have difficulty in just doing normal everyday kinds of things? For some of you, because I've just kind of accidentally put that out by stubbing it a little bit, you're being called to give up cigarettes if you still smoke, or vaping if that's something you do. As far as I know, it's kind of equally dangerous, so just watch that. That might be something you're a slave to, right? If you're not identifying with something else, that's for somebody. This King of Swords is wearing a hat as well. Now, I get this as a kind of sorting hat, and I'm not a Potter fan, but I've been around someone who is the last few days. This is a kind of mini period of deciding where it is that you belong. And the way that you do that is not to say, I would like to be a Ravenclaw, or I would like to be a Hufflepuff, or whatever they are. I'm not really a Potter fan, guys, can you tell? But instead letting what you are choose you. And again, that stuff requires silence. There's a reason that I changed the deck today to be one that involves a lot of dark. Darkness for me represents blankness, silence, lack of stimulation. And I think that that's what you need to have it indicated back to you from the universe in some way, what it is that you belong doing. Or, for many of you, just what it is that you need to give up doing in order for things to become a little bit clearer. Now, Page of Cups in reverse, there may be a Pisces energy that you need to distance from or cut off, or that may be to do with this kind of message stuff. And if that's not you, or if indeed you are dominant Pisces or a Pisces, there is a side to that mutability, that changeability, that lack of boundaries that we see in Piscean and 12th house energy that needs to be put behind you a little bit. So if you're the kind of person who blends to fit in with a lot of different people, or who changes your stance or the way you speak about something in order to kind of please everyone just a little bit, what's being communicated to you here in this reading is that actually by diluting your own opinion, you please nobody, right? This fish needs to be jumping out of the jar in the upright and giving dreams to this person in the traditional expression of the deck. And instead it's been kind of dropped out, and gravity will not do well with it, right? So this is dreams being squashed because there is a lack of boundaries, a lack of good 12th house energy. You know, we talk about the 12th house and Neptunian stuff as being very veiled and unseen, and that's almost seen as a negative for a lot of people, or seen as like this sort of esoteric, very spiritual energy of like things that are veiled that will be revealed by the universe. But also it can speak about the things that we keep hidden on purpose, the boundaries that we draw for ourselves to delineate what is private from what is public. You heard me at the beginning saying, I do protect these cards, I do protect these readings, and I do prayers for you guys. But am I going to share that shit? Hell no, because people can hack it, right? And I know that's not how everyone works. And if people are very public about the way they do stuff, that's fine, that's great. More power to you, right? But it's a good way of expressing this thing of some things need to be kept silent. Some things need to be kept private. For some of you, this is your own practice. You're being locked out of it at the moment and almost kind of blindfolded from the way forward in order to shut up and listen and kind of keep things secret, right? I'm seeing the witch's pyramid: to know, to will, to do, to be silent. Being silent is huge in this next few days, and it is quite a quiet phase, right? We think of the Crescent and then again the High Priestess in the traditional representation. This is a contemplative time, and for you, I think that the center of that contemplation is going to be around what it is that you have been a slave to, that has been a lightning rod for trouble, and that you can now let go, because stability is coming in. I think you're going to end this feeling of imposter syndrome. You're going to realize that the gifts that have come to you so far are meant for you, and that you're meant to lead with them, perhaps even in a busier environment with this city. And again, the Four of Wands represented by this. So more stability coming in, more kind of rigidity in how you practice and what you will tell people and what you won't. And all in all, I think that this is going to improve your conscious state, but more than that, your subconscious state with this 7. I think the thing that needs to be addressed beyond communication, beyond setting basic boundaries, again, see my other readings, is where you stand with you, where you want to take this next. What's your decision about this? Because your outer circumstances will follow when you know what you're doing. But my feeling around you right now, my dude, and I love you when I say this, is that you don't know enough to delineate where other people end and you begin, right? Or where other people's practice ends and yours begins, or when other people's business ends and yours begins. And this few days is about setting that and drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is my quiet recovery time to get back in touch with my inner self and say, if I am a slave to God rather than other people, what does that entail? If I am in servitude to a higher purpose, rather than being distracted by the concerns of people who aren't on that journey, what do I do differently from here? What mask do I drop? And how can I acknowledge the things that I've achieved so far and take them forward, knowing that they are truly mine? If this was helpful, please like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. I do these readings 4 times a month, so it's worth a subscription to kind of get the next in this sequence of 4. And this will take us into the new year as well, because we're on Birch Moon, which means we overlap with January. So exciting times, right? As I say, let me know in the comments what kind of stuff you'd like to see from me, what you enjoyed. As always, what resonated, what didn't, etc. Good to have feedback of any kind. And I hope that this is a really productive time for you, and that you realise that it's kind of your birthright to step back into this energy and get back in touch with yourself, with nature, with a higher power. And that the only thing required of you in order to do that is stepping back, setting boundaries, and a bit of quiet. Okay?